Well, that's been great to be with you. I just was, my mother just called. She was just on they were returning from the funeral, so she's giving me a quick update and try to keep up with my mother. I'm the oldest child. Have to, I get regular updates every day. My mother, one point or another. I want to just talk to you, and really the talk on living a blessed life. I've never actually given that talk before, so I just trying to think through in my own life. At this stage of my life, where I feel like God wants me to be, and this last session, I want to just give you another talk I've never really given before. Just sort of raw stuff that I'm working on right now, and it's all about recognizing what matters. This is my second grandson. 2 pictures of him, Logan. He's 2 minutes younger than his older brother, and he always had a special place in his heart for me. My daughter-in-law at one point said, "Richard, you're not playing favorites, are you? Because this child would always make a beeline for me. You know, he would cry if like his father cut him out of the nursery because he wanted his grandpa to get into the nursery." And so I said, "I'm not playing favorites, but I can't speak for him. I think he's playing favorites. I just take what I'm given." So, but Logan's a sweet little boy, very happy, very likable, cute little thing. He's 3 now, but we were at the, we have some friends who let us use the place by the beach in Destin, Florida, which is a very gracious gift to us, just a way to minister to me and my family. We have to get off the road for a week, and so all my kids typically show up and join us for that week, and so it's not become a restful vacation because I've got 4 kids, 3 and under that are there, but it's fun just to be with my kids and my grandkids. And the other day I heard Logan all of a sudden just start screaming, just yelling. I gotta tell you, I'm usually when he, I mean, if I hear any grandchild crying, I'm gonna come to their aid, but when this child starts screaming, like my grandpa's got to be there. One day he was crying because he didn't want to go to bed, didn't want to nap, and his mother made him because he's crying, and she put him in his bed, and then he actually calls me Papa. He was crying out, "Papa, Papa," and I mean he knows the weak link. My daughter-in-law just gave me a stern, like, "Don't you go rescue him." She knew full well. I said, "What is he calling for me? You can't let him down. He'll be scarred. I'm not there for him." But anyway, he the other day at the beach, he just started just wailing. Like I've never heard him wail. And I thought he must, 3-year-old, he fell down, maybe chipped a tooth, he fell down the stairs. And I get up and I'm starting to go to rescue, but I can hear both of his parents talking to him, and I start to listen in, and I mean, you'd think this kid like has just been run through by like a spike or something. He's just like in absolute agony and anguish. But what happens, what I learned is that what it was he was getting a new pair of underwear put on him. and do any of you got grandkids or kids? Like Paw Patrol is a big thing right now, like a bunch of dogs that rescue people and so on. For years, I used to know all the cartoons when my kids were young. Now I've gone through a whole season where I'm totally out of touch with cartoons, and now I'm back into it again. Now I know what's current. I'm just grateful that Barney is over with, so I don't have to watch Barney with my grandkids. So he had Paw Patrol underwear, and Marshall, who's a fireman's dog, that's the underwear he's wearing. But the deal was that the Marshall goes on the back side of the underwear. It's the back part of the underwear. But he didn't want it on the back part, he wanted the front part because he wanted to see it. So that's the whole thing, is that Marshall is on the back of his underwear, he wants it on the front, and you'd think the kid's dying. He's being kidnapped and abused all the way out the door, and it's just simply, he wants to wear his underwear backwards. Now, if that had been my choice, that would have been a no-brainer, just wear it backwards. Wear it on your head if you want to, whatever makes you happy, But I thought, thinking, this kid was like having conniptions because he couldn't wear his underwear backwards, wow, I hope he kind of grows out of that, but...
Remember the blue hair, he will.
but isn't it interesting that even for adults, sometimes we can get all uptight about stuff that doesn't necessarily matter. And there's 4 boys in my family, my siblings, and then my sister. My sister has been a missionary in Germany for 16 years, but they had some issues with their teenage daughter. They had to leave the mission field. And they're basically transitioning right now from being a missionary for 16 years to finding some kind of church ministry position back in America. So they don't have a job yet. They run out of paycheck. And they're still looking for where God has for them next. So what they've done is they moved in with my parents. And so they got 2 teenage kids. They're living with my parents. It's a hard time because they're transitioning to a whole another career. They don't have any paycheck coming in at all right now. So my parents are having to bankroll them. And they stay at their house. And they got 2 teenage kids who've grown up in Germany. They're trying to navigate being in America again. And a lot of issues. And so my mom, now and then, she'll call to just vent or get some counsel, because she's got this other family. They've been alone, my parents, for years. Now they've got another family, not just visiting, but living there for over a year, I guess now. So one day my mom called and said, Richard, I just need to talk to my oldest son. And I know that means she's upset about something and needs me to talk her off the ledge, So it's like, well, what's wrong? Well, Wendell, my brother-in-law, her son-in-law, he does the dishes a lot of the time. He does most of the cooking, actually, there. He's got time on his hands a lot of days, so he cooks, he does the dishes. But she said, but he has this habit that just like we're just about to come to blows over because I've got this really expensive dishwashing liquid, and he will spray, like when he's washing certain dishes, he'll squirt on every dish and scrub it and clean it, and like that's really expensive. I would just put some in the water and bubble it up and just use the same thing. And so I started to say something. I was so close to just saying, look, I'm paying for this dish soap, and so do it my way. I don't care how you do it. When you pay for it, do it your way. But I'm paying for that, so, what should I do? And I said, Mom, how expensive is that entire thing of dish soap? And she told me whatever the price was. I said, trust me, it's dish soap. It's not that big of a deal. It's just, I said, repeat after me. It's only dish soap. That's your only son-in-law you have. I said, and he's washing your dishes. I'd let him do it any way he wants. If he wants to come to my house and wash my dishes, he can use a whole tub every time. And he made the food. He dirtied the dishes by making your dinner. Mom, get over it. I said, I don't want to ever hear again you getting into an argument with your son-in-law because he's washing your dishes in a way you don't approve of. I said, just let it go. But isn't that interesting that we'll do that? I said, you know what, Mom? You're doing an amazing thing. You've taken in your son-in-law. You've opened your home up. You're bankrolling them. You're loving on them. You're getting a chance to have your 2 youngest grandchildren living in your home with you for over a year. That you'll never have that chance again, I'm sure, when they finally move on. I said, you could transform what could be a beautiful time of you being there for your kids into an unpleasant experience where they can't wait to get it. I said, and you do it over dish soap? I said, trust me, Mom, it's not worth it. But it's interesting to me how often I've been kind of a student of leaders and very successful people in business and other places. And one of the things that separates really successful people in business from people not so successful is that people that are really successful have an uncanny ability to recognize what matters and what doesn't. And they don't waste their time on things that don't matter. Whether it's running a business, making it a better business, they don't, some guys can agonize over some anal retentive sort of issue that doesn't really matter anyway, and then they neglect staffing issues or key issues that can make or break their company, and they neglect the stuff that can ruin them, and then they give way too much time to stuff that just doesn't really matter one way or the other. Does anyone know who Sam Andrews was? Sam Andrews in his day came up with some pretty cutting edge technology for his industry, was kind of a leading edge kind of guy, got a partner in business and was building a brand new company. And things were going pretty well. The company was moving forward. There was quite a synergy between his ingenuity and his partner's business acumen. But at a certain point, Sam got frustrated with his partner because the partner was all about the company. Every time there were profits, his partner just wanted to roll the profits into the company. Sam wanted to enjoy the money. Sam's like, hey, we made a profit. I want to go spend it. I want to go on a European trip. I want to build a bigger house. And his partner would say, no, we're not going to give a lot of dividends. We're going to roll this over. We're going to expand the business. And at a certain point, Andrews just got fed up because it seemed like his partner always got his way. And Andrews just thought, hey, we got money, let's enjoy it, let's spend it, let's have fun with it. And his partner said, no, not yet, let's keep on rolling it over. So finally, Andrews in about 1894 said, I'm just sick of this business, I want out. I want out. His partner at that time, 1894, said, well, what do you want for your shares of the business, your part? He said, I want $1 million. At that time, that was unheard of, 1894, just for his portion of the business. He said, I want $1 million. He figured for once, he would out-business his business partner. His business partner said, come by my office tomorrow, I'll have you $1 million. And he did. He was out of business. Of course, anyone know who his partner was? John Rockefeller. Rockefeller took the shares of the $1 million that he paid for, went to Vanderbilt, sold it for $1.2 million the next week. Made a $200,000 profit. And Andrews was going around saying, finally, someone got the best of Rockefeller. And within a week, Rockefeller had already made $200,000 on his money. And then he became upset. He started saying, I was cheated. I was pressured into this. It wasn't fair. And so Rockefeller actually went back to Andrews and said, well, if you feel like you've been cheated, I'll give you back your shares. Give me $1 million that I paid you, and I'll give you back just as many shares as what you had. But at that point, Andrews' pride kicked in. He didn't want to come back groveling and saying, I made a mistake, I was bested once again by Rockefeller. So he said, I'll just keep my money. He built a huge, gaudy, extravagant mansion in Cleveland where they lived at the time and squandered away the rest of his years. Estimates are that within about 20 years, those same shares would have been worth around $900 million. But he, in a fit of anger, fit of greed, pettiness, said, I'm just tired of being bossed around. Say, if I was equal shares with John Rockefeller, I would have said, boss all you want. But pride didn't. Who knows who Alexander Malcolm's son? He had a partner too. Someone said it earlier. Henry Ford. Same story. He was an early partner with Ford at the very beginning. He had the money, he was the investor. Ford was coming up with the technology, but at a certain point they had differences of opinion. This guy didn't like Ford's direction, thought it was a little reckless, and put his foot down, finally said, I'm leaving this partnership. And so he sold his shares for $175,000. Took that money, started his own automobile company. 2 years later, in 1905 is when he had his falling out. 1907, his company goes bankrupt. Of course, Henry Ford's skyrockets. And by 1919, about 12 years later, Malcolm's son is coming to Henry Ford asking for handouts because he's destitute. And about 4 years after that, he dies of just basically a nervous collapse. His whole life is just falling apart. He's got nothing. And again, people estimated that $175,000 within 10 years would have been worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Again, it's a prideful thing. People look back and say both those men were fools because of their ego, because of their pride, because they wanted their way. They didn't trust the other person's way. They were willing to walk away from what would have made them one of the wealthiest people in all of American history. And we look at that, and from hindsight, we say, well, those people were stupid. that was just crazy. But then we start examining some of the ways we have behaved, some of the ways we have treated others, some of the things we have said, some of the things we have fixated on and been upset about. And then you look later and say, why did I let people devote that much energy and time over something that really was not that significant? There's an interesting passage in Luke 22. It's often used when partaking of the Lord's Supper. Beginning in verse 14, it says, when the hour came, and one of the things that's interesting about Jesus is that he always had an amazing sense of timing. What you realize with God is that what God does is always important, but when he does it is equally important. It's possible to do the right thing, but to do it too late, or to do it too soon. Jesus had an impeccable sense of timing. He always did the right thing at the right time. I wrote a book called The Seasons of God, which talks a lot about that, just recognizing the season you're in and doing what's appropriate for that season. We get ahead of ourselves, or we get behind, but it says, when the hour came, he reclined at the table, and the apostles with him. Then he said to them, I have fervently desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffer. For I tell you, I will not eat it again until it is fulfilled in the kingdom of God. Then he took a cup, and after giving thanks, he said, take this and share it among yourselves. For I tell you, from now on I will not drink of the fruit of the vine until the kingdom of God comes. And he took bread, gave thanks, broke it, gave it to them, and said, this is my body, which is given for you. Do this in remembrance of me. In the same way, he also took a cup after supper and said, this cup is the new covenant in my blood, which is poured out for you. But look, the hand of one betraying me is at the table with me. For the Son of Man will go away as it has been determined, but woe to that man by whom he's betrayed. So they began to argue among themselves which of them it could be who was going to do it. Then a dispute also arose among them about who should be considered the greatest. Isn't that interesting contrast there? What is Jesus talking about? What's on Jesus' heart? He's about to pour his life out for the sins of all humanity. He's going to face death. He's going to descend into the pit of hell. He's going to be alienated from his Father. He's going to take on every sin that has ever been committed by humanity or ever will be committed. By laying his life down, what does he say? I'm willing to die for people I care about, love. By the way, if you knew all of that was coming, if you knew you were about to be betrayed by one of your best friends, be beaten mercilessly to the point of being unrecognizable, and then crucified in the most excruciating manner that the Roman Empire knew how to do, what would you be thinking about in your closing hours? What does he say? He said, I'm about to be poured out for you. My blood's about to be spilled for you, but I earnestly desire to spend time with you because you're my friend, because I care about you. Can you imagine that? You're about to face the most excruciating death ever experienced. But he said, but it's important to me that I spend time with my friends first. And then, in fact, he washes his friends' feet. And he cares for them, and he fellowships with them. I tell you what, that was me. I've been pacing up and down. I've been looking outside, and looking at my watch. How much more time do I have before I start getting beaten and betrayed? Jesus is saying, in this moment, that's coming, but in this moment, I realize what's important is I spend time with those I care about. And so Jesus always had a sense, whatever he was doing, wherever he was, he always knew in that moment what mattered and what did not matter. But then you get to his disciples. And what was it in the last verse that they're concerned about? The org chart, right? Who's going to be in the boxes right below Jesus' box? And who's going to have the office right next to the CEO? And who's going to be sitting be on the leadership team? And how much budget will I have? And how many staff will I have? Will I have my own administrative assistant? And they're all fretting and worrying about all the perks and position and line of authority. And you realize once Jesus is crucified, do they talk about that stuff anymore? They don't. Because then they realize how little it matters. But here Jesus is about to attempt the greatest single work ever done on the planet. And his disciples are talking about position and administrative issues. And what that says to me is, if you're going to be like Jesus, you've got to know what matters and what doesn't. What will last and what will not last. And Jesus was always a master at that. And so when I look at that, I'm always challenged to think, well, God, sometimes I'm just too much like those disciples. You know, I was honest with you. I was sharing with someone last night. One of my challenges is that I'm very obsessive, compulsive. I like checking all the boxes. I'm very task-oriented. I want to check. I had these 10 things I needed to get done today. I got them all done. And so for me, one of the things that really gets bad is I like my desk clear. I like my inbox empty. When I go to bed at night, my inbox is empty. I've either answered all my emails or I forwarded them to Rick and asked him to answer them, but my inbox is empty. And my desk is clear. All the mail, correspondence, nothing's sitting on my desk. It's dealt with. I do the day's work in the day, and it's done. So what drives me crazy is when I go out of town. And I remember when I was running a seminary, I had come back, I'd been gone for over 2 weeks, and the whole time I'm thinking, those staff of mine are bringing stuff in and setting them on my desk, and I don't even know what's on my desk there, what all the work's waiting for me. So I would typically get up extra early the first day back in the office and sneak into the office. I might get there at 4 in the morning. And so I had time to clear that desk off, get everything caught up before the staff came in. And of course, all the staff want to see me. And but I got kind of away late that particular morning, and I think I ended up having to take my kids to school or something. I had to be a father first, and so that put me behind at work. And so by the time I get to work, there's already people there. There's already cars in the parking lot. Well, I'll sneak in the back way. No one will have to know. And I sneak in, get to my office, check out all those things on my desk. So I walk out the back way, go into the hallway, just kind of make a quick run to the right here, unseen, and I can get to my desk, check out all my mail. But as I start to go, I hear the voices of 2 of my key staff people, my business office manager and another staff person to my left. And I stop my tracks, and something in my spirit says, you should go check on your business manager. But I thought, if I go over to that business office, there's all kinds of people there. Everybody, it'll take me an hour to get away from there. Everybody wants me to tell them about my story, and I just don't have that time right now. So I'm going to go to my office first, clear up my desk, then I'll take care of stuff. And I make about 3 steps this way, and I stop, and I just feel like the Spirit of God says, well, you should go check on that person. So I actually start walking back. Okay, well, I'll go check. I get about 5 or 6 steps, and I stop, and I think, but you know, I just don't, I really need to check. There's a couple of important papers and mail that's supposed to come in while I'm gone. I really need to kind of get the label on that. I know what I'll do is I'm going to check my mail, take care of all the important stuff, and then I'll do a complete walkabout, the whole property, talk to all the staff, make sure everybody sees me, and it'll be fine. And so I go back and forth for a while, but I finally get to my desk, and of course the phone starts ringing, my academic dean comes over, my assistant comes in, and the whole morning is shot. Now I'm going to lunch meeting. So I think, well, after lunch, I'm going to, as soon as I have lunch, I'm going to just put my jacket in my office, and I'll just do my walkabout. Everybody can see me, everybody can hear how I'm doing, and it'll be great. So I'm going to my office, and the very woman that I had felt I should go talk to is standing at my administrative assistant's desk. Now, my administrative assistant at that time was one of the godliest women I've ever known, like a grandmother figure to the whole seminary. And the woman that I felt burdened to go talk to is praying with my assistant. And she's got tears coming down her eyes. And it's obvious the moment I walk in the room that the Spirit of God was trying to tell me, one of your key staff people, one of the key people on your leadership team is hurting terribly. You need to go check on her. And it's obvious because she's sobbing with my assistant. And so I kind of stand there like, okay, I'm here now. They kind of stop. They heard someone coming in, and they're having this tearful prayer. And they kind of look over at me and see me. And I'm like, okay, I'm here. Does someone need me? But it was obvious that it was too late for me. My assistant was doing what I feel like God probably wanted me to do. And at that point, I just needed to go to my office. And I'll never forget walking into my office, sitting down at my desk that was perfectly clear, and realizing I just missed my divine appointment. God knew that helping someone whose marriage was falling apart, who was hurting terribly, that was far more important than going and making sure my desk was clear and all my correspondence was up to date. And I thought to myself, God, today I missed it. I thought the wrong thing was important. And I could have blessed my staff person today, but instead I worried about my destiny. Now, does that happen to you? Do you ever kind of race into a day with your own schedule, and then all these other people keep interrupting your schedule, and you just wish they'd leave you alone because you got all this stuff to do, and you get to the end of the day or the week and you realize, I think the most important thing I missed because I was so consumed with unimportant things. I'll tell you one of the most heartbreaking stories. I mentioned a book on race I wrote. A church one time asked me to come and preach on that book, and so I went to their church and I just preached my heart out about grace and what grace does. Grace cares about people. Grace says what matters, what doesn't matter, and it just embraces people and it expresses Christ's love. And so I preached my heart out. As soon as I was done, we had an altar call, music played, so people came, made decisions, and prayed. And then the pastor just hurriedly came over to me as soon as the closing prayer was prayed, and you could just tell he was really shaken. He said, "Richard, did you notice?" He said, "There's a couple sitting over to your right over here," and he kind of described where they were, what they looked like, kind of an older couple. And I said, "Yeah, I think I remember. I know who you're talking about." They said, "I have to tell you a story about them." He said, they had one child, one daughter, and they loved their daughter, the apple of their eye. And when eventually their only daughter got engaged to be married, and the parents came to their child, they said, "We're so thrilled, we're so excited, we've dreamed of this day coming. It's the only chance we get to have a child getting married. So we've done a lot of," the parents said, "we've talked a lot about this and how special we want it to be." And they began to tell their daughter all their plans they had for their daughter's wedding. And the mother said, "I've saved my wedding dress, so you can get married in my wedding dress." And they began to share all their plans. And at a certain point, the daughter said, "Well, Mom, Dad, I'm really glad you're happy for me, but I got some plans for my wedding too." And it didn't involve my mom's wedding dress, for one, and that hurt her mother's feelings. They just wanted to do it for their daughter. They thought they were being so loving, and it seemed to them like their daughter was saying, "Well, I don't care about how much you love me. I don't care about your plans. I'm going to do it my way." And so words were said back and forth that were very hurtful, and things just kind of escalated. So that by the day of their only daughter's wedding, those parents were not even speaking to their only child. They went to the wedding, didn't even speak. The father walks his daughter down the aisle, doesn't even speak to her while he's walking her down, just to let her know. Their parents were just waiting for their daughter to say she was sorry, that she should have appreciated more all the sacrifice and expense the parents were putting into her, but she thought her parents were stubborn and self-centered, and they ought to be the ones to apologize, so nobody apologized. As soon as it was at all acceptable at all, the parents left the wedding, didn't even stay for the reception. About a year later, their only daughter had her first child. These people's only grandchild. But they still weren't talking. The parents didn't go to the hospital. The parents did not go in, because they weren't talking to their, at that point they were not having anything to do with their daughter. So they had nothing to do with their only grandchild. And this pastor said the thing that's so heartbreaking is their child goes to this church. And this morning, their daughter was sitting just 2 rows of seats in front of them. And they brought in their newborn baby, and their only grandchild was sitting 2 rows ahead of them. A grandchild they never held, they never touched. And he said, when you began preaching about grace, I thought to myself, you might as well just use their first names, because everything you were saying was dead on, exactly their problem. They didn't realize what mattered was their only child. What mattered was their only grandchild. But their pride, their ego, their insistence that they were right and their child was wrong, just kept them in their place and said, we will stubbornly hold our ground till our daughter admits we were right, she was wrong. And he said, when you were preaching that sermon, I thought to myself, there's absolutely no way humanly possible they could hear those truths right out of God's word and not do something. And he said, when you extended the altar call, I was certain that they would, that parents would just be sobbing and making their way 2 rows up and hugging and embracing their daughter and saying they were sorry, and for the first time ever hold their own grandchild in our church. And I knew revival could just break out over our church as another family was healed. But he said the first verse was sung, those parents just rigidly held onto their chairs and refused to move. And when the closing prayer was prayed, they were one of the first people to turn around and leave the building. Still unwilling to say, honey, I'm sorry, we've been so foolish. That's ridiculous. Let's just get right so we can be family again. I saw that and I thought to myself, these are Christians who go to church every Sunday. And they literally could go to church on Sunday and be 2 rows away from their only child and grandchild and stubbornly say, we're right, we have no changes we need to make in how we're behaving. Can Christians do that? Can Christian business people get so blinded that they forget what matters and what doesn't matter? I don't know, I guess as I get older, I'm just increasingly aware I don't have a lot of time in my life. And I don't want to waste my precious time on stuff that doesn't really matter anyway. And I want to invest the precious time I have on stuff that really does. I think that's why grandkids are so fun, because you know, when you're raising your own kids, you don't always know that yet. And you neglect your kids a lot of times when you shouldn't have. But by the time you get a little older and you realize how precious your time is, you start to realize what matters and what doesn't. And when it comes to business, what matters with your staff, what matters with your company, what really doesn't matter. We close with one last story, just one more of my own family. I got a call one day from my wife. She's kind of the lubricant in our family. If she knew that there was a tension coming, she would try to alleviate that. And so she called, she knew I was about to come home. She said, Richard, before you come home, you need to know something. Your son was playing in the driveway today, and he took out a window in the garage door. He shot a hockey ball, and it blew out the window pane in the garage. I know you told him not to send projectiles toward our house. It was a brand new house. The only house I've ever had built, so it was pristine, perfect when we moved in. I'd given my kids the speech. This is a perfect house. I paid more for it than I intended to, and so I'm a little worried I can afford this house. I certainly can't afford to repair things that at this point are perfectly in good condition. So, but my son had shot a projectile toward my house, taken out a window. And so my wife said, and Richard, he already feels really bad about this. I said, well, I'm going to take feeling bad to a whole nother level when I get home. Because he should feel bad. He's been told not to do that. Because I told him this very thing would happen. And he ignored what his father said. Exactly what I warned him about has happened. And now he's going to feel bad. And I already pictured that, I mean, he didn't have a job, he didn't have any money, so you couldn't just pay, you know, the obvious thing would just pay, just give me enough money, I'll pay for the window to be replaced. But he has no money. So I thought, but he will pay for it. That's just, I mean, he needs to learn that when you make a mistake, there's a price to be paid. And when you're careless, you have to pay the price. And so there are consequences to our actions, and he needs to understand consequences. So on the way home, I figure I'll just cart him out. I'll just go door to door in the neighborhood saying, I got a son for hire. He's got to earn a window. And so would you please give him some slave labor job? Don't pay him too much either, because he needs to really pay for this. Don't overpay him. I want to put in a lot of hours to prepare for all the damage, and the person has to come in to replace it for me. And so I'm working out this plan. And you know, as a father, I'm trying to think, like, what's important here? What matters? He needs to, like, my son needs to realize you live your life carelessly. You're going to have your whole life, you're going to have to be fixing mistakes and problems because you weren't paying attention. You weren't listening to wise counsel. So here's a great object lesson. So I come barreling in that house. I am just ready. I'm loaded for bear. Like, this is my oldest son. And the thing is, when you take down your oldest son, you can strike fear into the younger children. So it's like, I'm going to get some residual results here by the way I handle my firstborn, and I'll terrify the other two. I'll never have a problem like this with those guys after they see what happens to their fearless leader, oldest sibling. So I walk in the door, and my wife knows me, and she meets me at the door. Richard, he really feels bad. I mean, he is just, you know, that's the son, of all my kids, he's the one that's just going to beat himself up for being stupid. And so I said, well, he should feel bad. I'm glad he feels bad. But we're gonna now it's time to learn some lessons from that. I don't care if it feels bad. The window's feeling bad, we'll replace that window. So I started up the stairs, and I don't like conflict. I don't like having those scenes with my kids. So as I'm going up the stairs, I'm kind of taking deep breaths. Okay, bracing myself. Sometimes as a dad, you just gotta do the hard thing. And I burst through I knocked, I burst open the door, and Mike's sitting on his bed, and he turns to look at me, and one look at his face, and he's been crying. Like, he's the kind of kid who'll just think, I was so stupid. I was such a stupid thing. And he's just been waiting for me to get home. And before I can even, and it takes me back, when I see the look of just brokenness on my son's face, I kind of get a loss for words. And so he starts speaking. He said, Dad, I was just so stupid. I'm so sorry. You told me not to do that. I know that. Dad, I'm going to pay you back for everything. I don't have any money right now, but if you get it paid, just tell me what it costs. I will pay you back every cent for what that took. And just something happened in my heart as I saw it. And so I just said, son, I'm glad you feel bad. But you know what? Just don't do it again, okay? I'll take care of it. But yeah, I'll pay for it. No, son, I don't want you to pay for it. I think it's fine. I'll get it done. And I walked out, and my wife's on her knees praying to God. And I walked out, and so that was done. That was done. Well, about 3 weeks later, my son has a birthday, and I forget, he's like 10 or something like that at the time. So and so like his birthday was, because he doesn't have a job, that was the richest day of his life. Because, his grandparents gave him $20, his uncles would give him $10, whatever. And so he is like the mother lode. And then he's got a whole year to like nurse this birthday money, so he's got some spending money, So it's his birthday, and we're gonna play laser tag. And he's got all these boys at his party. I'm gonna drive him into the big city. They've got this big laser tag place. And so I've got a minivan full of boys, all like trash talking each other, how they're gonna just gun each other down every day. It's gonna be awesome. And we're driving in. But it's in an industrial area of the city that I'm not familiar with. I don't really know where I'm going. I don't really have GPS then. I'm trying to follow directions. And so I'm driving along. And I go through this intersection, and a bicycle policeman waves me down, signals me, pull over. And apparently there was a pedestrian standing on the corner. Now, I saw the pedestrian. They weren't even looking to cross the street. Like, they were looking at the policeman or something, but they didn't look like they were going to cross the street. I kind of slowed down, didn't look like they were crossing, so I just barreled on through. Well, they nailed me. They said, you should have yielded, you should have let this pedestrian cross the street. And it was kind of a trap. Like he said, I've already stopped like 6, 7 other people, just like a set. And so I thought, I'm kind of, annoyed with this. And because already I'm paying a lot of money for this birthday party anyway, and now I'm going to pay this ticket. And of course, all the boys just go silent. Like, this is so embarrassing. Mr. Blackaby's getting a ticket, and we're all watching it. And so it's all this sort of silence, as you can just hear everybody's heartbeats, like, because there's a shakedown going down with Mr. Blackaby. So I even tried the sympathy vote. I mean, it's like, well, officer, I'm sorry. I said, it didn't look like that person was crossing. Well, it doesn't matter if it looked like they were crossing. If they're near the corner, you got to stop. And so then I go with the sympathy vote. I said, well, I'm just a little distracted. It's my son's birthday. I'm taking him to a birthday party, and I've got all these boys just trying to show him a good time, and he's just not buying it. Well, let's get it. Well, there's your ticket. And so I drive on, and it's just kind of miserable downer at this birthday party. So we get to the laser tag place. The boys all go running in. They're all getting their equipment and everything, getting all hooked up, have all their their call names, all these awesome names they have for themselves and everything. And so there's a little room that we're going to have the birthday party in. And so I've kind of gone in there, put my coat in there, claiming this spot for the cake and everything when my wife is there. And all of a sudden I turn around and there's my son Mike. And he hasn't gone to get his gun yet. He hasn't gone to get his stuff. He's just looking at me. And I can tell there's something going on with him. And I look down, and in his hand, he's clutching every penny he's been given for his birthday. And he says, Dad, if it wasn't for my birthday, you wouldn't be here today. You would never have gotten that ticket if it wasn't for my party. You wouldn't have been in this town. You wouldn't have been driving over here. It's my fault that you got that ticket, because if it wasn't my birthday, you wouldn't have gotten it. I said, Dad, I don't know if this is enough money to pay for that whole ticket, but at least I'll give you this much so it won't cost you so much. And of course, I'm just like blubbering like a baby at that point, kind of like I am now. years later. And in that moment, God just said to me, do you remember that lesson that you wanted to teach your son a few weeks ago? About how there's consequences? How when you mess up, you need to pay up? Like when you do something foolish, you got to pay the price? That was the lesson you wanted to teach your son. What was the lesson I helped you to teach him that day? It's grace. Son, just don't worry about it. It's okay, I love you. Just forget about it. I'll pay that for you. And 3 weeks later, what's that 10-year-old doing? He's showing me grace. He said, let me show you grace, Dad. I'll pay the price for your mistake. And I remember walking away from it. I said, son, please keep your money. Because thank you. Thank you for being willing to do that for your dad. 10-year-old trying to bail out his dad. I walked away and I said, God, just help me to know. Because I just assume sometimes I know what matters. I sometimes just assume, they need to pay the price. I need to chew out this staff person. I need to confront this person for what they're doing, what they haven't done. And God, sometimes maybe you do need to do that. But check with God. Because God might be saying, not today. If you knew what they were going through today, if you knew what the house they left this morning to get to work, if you knew the way their husband chewed them out as they were leaving the door to come work for you today, you wouldn't chew them out today. They've been chewed out enough already. Trust me. What they need from you right now is grace. God knows what matters each day. So the key is, are you listening to Him? Or I just don't trust myself anymore. Because I just have gotten it wrong too often. And so I just have to say, God, before I meet with this staff, before I meet with this customer, before I commit myself and my schedule today, I better just check with you. Because I know if I'm where you want me to be, I'll always be dealing with the stuff that really matters. And not wasting my time on stuff that doesn't. Well, let me pray with you. Lord, it's amazing to us that Christ could live just 33 years and yet accomplish more than people who lived 100 years. But Lord, you always did the stuff that mattered. You always spent your time where it mattered most, where your Father wanted you to be. And Lord, help us to learn how to live our lives like you do. To put ourselves always in the place that you want us to be. Leveraging our influence in the matters that really are important. And Lord, just forgive us for being consumed sometimes by such trivial, meaningless stuff that won't even matter a week from now. God, just the energy that we put in, the emotions at times we spend on stuff that didn't even matter. God, I pray that you just free us from that so we can actually spend the time we need in the things that do matter. God, just help us. Lord, may our businesses and the organizations we lead benefit from the fact that the people who lead them know what matters and they know what doesn't. And we always put our shoulder up against the stuff that really matters. Lord, use us powerfully. None of us have a lot of time to squander. Our time is valuable. Our energy is valuable. Our attention is valuable. So help us to always be focused where you would have us focus, so that we can always be producing eternal results as a result of being right where you'd have us to be. Help us not to be too early and never too late. But Lord, in your perfect timing, always focus where you'd have us in that moment. And guide us, Lord. Use us. And may you just bless each person in this room and their businesses. And Lord, the staff, the people, their customers, the clients, may they all be blessed because they encountered someone who always knew what was important. And I pray this in Jesus' name.
Amen.